Good day, Senator Pangilinan. On behalf of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches, CVM, Christian Values Movement, we thank you for carving out time from your busy schedule to attend this interview, this event. My name is Pastor JP Masakayan. I'm the chairman of the Christian Values Movement. And with us today would be first Bishop, Pastor, and Peter F. Tanchi. He is the founder and senior pastor of Christ Commission Fellowship. He is also the chairman of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches and founder and board member of the Christian Values Movement. With us also is Bishop Noel Pantoja, National Director of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches. Also with us will be Bishop Jonel Milan. He is the founder and president of Asin at Ilaw Movement, which stands for Ating Siyasatin, Ihahalan Natin, Ang Suhol Iwaksi Natin, Itaguyod, Legal at Wasto. He is also the Bishop of Hope of Glory Community and board member and deputy director of PCEC. And last but not least is, of course, Pastor Ricky Sarthu, executive pastor of Christ Commission Fellowship. Our goal in setting up this meeting is for our 15 million members of 80,000 churches to get to know the candidates running for the 2022 elections. In this session, we will be asking you questions based on Christian values for leaders and our nation. We would like to know your position and plans regarding these matters. Please know that this set of questions are the same standard questions for all other candidates. As such, we ask your consent to record and broadcast this interview.
You have my consent, Bishop, Pastor, you have my consent.
Thank you so much. So without further delay, I would like to turn over the floor to Bishop Peter Tanchi.
Senator Pangilinan, you know, our country has always been struggling with graft and corruption.
Yes.
So how do you generally plan to help this perennial problem of graft and corruption?
First is, dapat yung ating mga i-appoint, talagang mayroong track record na malinis. Hindi pa pwede yung may record ng katiwalian. Number one yan, choose the right people. Choose the people with integrity and a track record of genuine service. Number two, kailangan talagang palakasin yung ating system of justice. Dahil napakabagal. At dahil hindi napaparusahan kaagad yung mga nagkakasala. Nawawalan tuloy yung respeto ng mga, lalo na yung mga masasamang tao, sa ating sistema ng katarungan. We have to strengthen and modernize our justice system so that the court processes are swift, the guilty are punished, and the innocent are absolved. Our conviction rate in the Philippines is about, in criminal cases and corruption cases, is about 30%. In Hong Kong, it's about 80%. In Japan, it's about 90%. So if we speed up the disposition of cases, strengthen our justice system, punish swiftly, and punish fairly and swiftly, then there will be respect for the rule of law. So yun ang ating paniniwala.
I think there's a saying in the Bible, because the evil people are not punished, they think they can get away with it.
Yes.
Now, this will be more specific now. So in terms of graft and corruption, I'm going to cite 3 agencies and give us your idea on how do you plan to deal with each one of these. For example, in the Bureau of Customs.
Well, mahalaga dyan, again, uunahin natin, someone with integrity and with competence.
Okay.
You can't just be honest but you are not qualified. And you cannot be just qualified and you're not honest. You have to have both. And that's what Jesse Robredo said. Dapat matino at dapat mahusay. So get people who are qualified and with integrity to run it. Pangalawa is really, how do we make the processes more transparent? We need private sector involvement in terms of making it more accountable and making it more transparent. So we have to strengthen government's partnership with the private sector, with the importers, with the traders, all those who deal with customs. Let's sit down and let's, as stakeholders, and discuss, okay, what steps do we do to make things more efficient? What steps do we take? What programs should we implement so that we can make things more transparent? And then let's work together and make it happen.
Thank you. Now, what about the Department of Public Works? How can we minimize the practice of overpricing, make bidding on projects more transparent?
You know, I have a direct experience with public-private partnerships, and because there's accountability and more transparency, I work with the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce to build school building programs. And because the private sector is there and they have a setup, we were able to build school buildings at half the price compared to the public works programs. So if private sector, again, participates in these projects together with the public works and together with the beneficiaries who will benefit from a multipurpose hall, who will benefit from a barangay hall. So the people's citizens organizations, church-based organizations, let's all come together and figure out how can we be all working together in a transparent manner to make government more transparent and more accountable, and therefore address corruption.
Thank you. Now, the last agency that we want to ask you is about the BIR and our taxation laws. How can we make it so that the ability or the discretionary power will be such that graft and corruption can really be minimized under the BIR?
Again, put someone with integrity and with skill and with competence and clear mandate, to end targets, and then provide a more participatory, more accountable process in terms of tax collection, and do not tolerate it. If you catch somebody in the bureaucracy who's corrupt, or punish or suspend or prosecute. We did that when I was in the NFA. In the NFA, I was the chairman of the NFA Council. And there were incidents of NFA employees and managers sabwatan with the traders. Kinukuha yung NFA rice, nire-rebag, tapos binibenta na commercial rice. When we sat, we suspended traders' licenses because of nefarious and wrong activities in Region 3, NCR, Region 5, Region 6, and Region 9. And we also filed administrative cases against NFA staff. Not all NFA employees and officials are corrupt, but the ones but there are some. And we went after them. And when we were able to do that, we were able to manage correctly the rice supply. Bumaba ang presyo ng bigas at that time, and we were able to make available 27 peso kilo rice and 32 peso kilo rice because we managed it correctly and we disciplined our people.
Thank you. Senator, are you willing to sign a waiver of the bank secrecy law? Second, are you willing to mandate cabinet members also to sign it?
Yes, I believe so. And in fact, when we actually sign our SALN, there is already a waiver there. And in the last 3 months, several media companies have asked for my SALN and we gave it. We have no reason not to. There's nothing to hide.
Thank you, sir. Last one.
Ang biro nga daw sa akin hindi ho unexplained poverty. Hindi po unexplained wealth, sorry. Unexplained poverty daw.
Now, lastly, have there ever been charges or informal accusations of corruption against you or your family? And if so, you want to say anything about this?
Wala po. In my several years in the Senate, even in the City Council, wala po. I have not been, and in the Executive Department, I have not been accused of or been linked to any cases of corruption. Thankfully, otherwise magagalit po si Sharon sa akin.
Senator, I have the privilege of asking you 3 questions, and the first one is this: what would you say have been your top 3 greatest contributions to the betterment of our nation?
I think the number one would be bringing the cause of our farmers and fisher folk in the national debates and the national arena. We have passed three laws in the last 3 years. As principal author of the Coco Levy Trust Fund measure, that's around 100 billion pesos worth of Coco Levy funds now available for our farmers. We passed the Sagip Saka law. I was the principal author. We're in government now. Billions of pesos worth of government funds that are purchased for agricultural products, with which they're now before they would buy it sa traders. The law says, no, you have to buy directly sa farmers and no more public bidding. So we've been able to do that. And in these two instances, actually, hopefully, we will continue to bring the plight of the least of our brethren. The farmers and our fisher folk are the poorest. And we've been championing their cause, more than a decade na. Kaya nga, I started farming then, nag-umpisa po ako mag-farm. Because, well, since my high school and college days, talagang sabi ko, you just don't talk the talk. Kinakailangan mo rin, you walk the walk. And I told myself in 2012 and 2010, unless ako mismo ay magsaka, hindi ko mararamdaman yung tunay na nararanasan ng pagsasaka at mangingisda. So I went into farming full-time when I stepped down from the Senate. Doon ko naranasan yung tinamaan ako ng bagyo, naubos yung aking tanim. 2 weeks na lang, I would have harvested around 500 kilos of lettuce. Naubos lahat. And then, the seedlings, di ba, people talk about the seedlings, my nursery, tinamaan din. So, the seedlings are critical kasi pagka ikaw ay natamaan na ng kalamidad, may seedlings ka, magtatanim ka kaagad. And therefore, the quicker you will be able to rebound. Pati yung seedlings ko naubos. So sabi ko, ganito palang nararanasan ng magsasaka. Pero dito rin ako nakakita nung napakatibay pala ng dibdib ng ating mga magsasaka. Matapos makaranas ng ganyan, babangon ulit, magtatanim ulit. So sabi ko, grabe, may a healthy respect for those who feed us. And that's why I think I will continue to do this, champion the cause of our farmers and our fishermen.
Thank you very much, Senator. And my second question is, what industry do you plan to support or develop to lower poverty and generate employment?
Agriculture. In 2020, 3.4 million people lost their jobs in our country. Half of that was agriculture, 1.7 million. So really, jobs. And the poorest of the poor are in the rural areas whose main source of livelihood, is agriculture or fishing. And we have been left behind in terms of agriculture development. Sa atin nag-aral ang mga Thai, sa UP Los Baños. Sa atin nag-aral yung mga Vietnamese. Magaling tayo magturo pero hindi tayo magaling mag-implementa ng tinuturo natin. And that requires leadership. And so, I believe, to address poverty, to address hunger, ang taas po ng hunger incidence sa atin. 1 out of every 4 Filipinos have experienced hunger last year. That's about 25 million of our kababayans more. And then our children, 1/3 of our children are stunted in varying degrees because of malnutrition. So, if we support our farmers and our fisherfolk, yields will be bountiful, harvests will be multiplied tenfold. Pag marami ng pagkain, karne, baboy, gulay, bigas, babagsak na ang presyo. Magiging abot kaya na, mawawala na rin ang gutom. And that's how we're going to work. Sabi nga, buong tapang at buong puso nating ipaglalaban yan kung tayo ay palarin at mabigyan ng tiwala ng ating mga kababayan. From San Simon, Pampanga. This story about, I met him last Sunday, actually. He's 87 years old. Si Tatang Meg from San Simon, Pampanga. He has been farming for 67 years. And he is still farming.
Rice?
Yes. 87 years old, nag-umpisa siya mag-farm ng 27, 67 years na siyang nagsasaka. And yung kasama niya, 84 years old, 17 nag-umpisa, 67 years then. So between the two of them, 134 years they have been farming and feeding the country. And yet they're still poor. And yet they're nagpa-farming pa rin. So that really got me. What kind of society and what kind of people will allow for such an injustice to happen? It's a society that needs transforming, that needs genuine change. And that's why, that was part of the reason also why I decided to run, because the vice presidency is a higher platform to be able to push for systemic change and address the systemic ills that allow for that to happen. Hindi tama. And of course, us as a people, we should not be comfortable and say that's acceptable. None of us should say that's acceptable. And because none of us will say it's, and everyone will say it's unacceptable, then, di ba, everybody should try and do something about it. And that's why the 2022 elections is critical and crucial.
Blessed by your answer, Senator. My last question is actually a two-part question. What role would you like to play once elected? And what if the president is not of the same party? How do you plan to contribute?
Well, first question, what role? Any role that will help me, that I can help in the agriculture and fishery sector. Kahit na anong role doon, basta makakatulong ako. Kung hindi pala rin, at hindi atin ang Pangulo, kung merong i-offer sa atin, basta makakatulong, bakit hindi? No? As long as we can help, lalo na kailangan magtulungan. If there's one thing I learned about the pandemic, we need one another. We need one another. We need to help each other. The pandemic is such that we really need to come together. Magtulungan, magdamayan, kung kaunting tulong mabibigay natin, and that's how we will survive this, because we are looking out for one another, comforting one another, assisting and helping one another. Hindi ibig sabihin Kyle, wala kang official na posisyon at vice president lang. In fact, vice president, malaking posisyon yun. Pero kinakailangan pa rin, halimbawa, ituloy ang mga programang inumpisahan ni Vice President Lenny. Marami siyang natulungan, pero na-inspire kasi niya ang private sector na makipag-partner sa kanya. Ang private sector, mas marami ang pondo kaysa sa gobyerno. Ang gobyerno, 20% lang ng GDP. Ang private sector, 77%. Pag na-inspire mo ang private sector at ang OVP at mag-partner, marami pa rin matutulungan. So hindi hadlang ang walang posisyon para makatulong.
Thank you very much, Senator. Bishop Jana?
Thank you, Senator. Before being a farmer, you are a lawyer.
That is correct.
You graduated with flying colors.
Yes, I from the UP, University of the Philippines College of Law.
And
Yes.
so the question assigned to me is about that. If elected as Vice President, Mr. Senator, how would you help na ang justice system natin ay mapabilis
Yes.
sa ating bansa? Because this is a really
Yes.
perennial
My first term in the Senate, I was chairman of the Senate Committee on Justice. Justice Puno, Renato Puno was the one who said, you want a first world justice system, but you're putting third world budget. The judiciary has less than 2% of the entire national budget. So we really have to modernize our judiciary. We have to pay our judges and prosecutors well so that they will focus on their work, so that they know that if they work hard and diligently, that their benefits will be protected, and when they retire, they will have a comfortable life and focus on just rendering justice. So budgetary support yan. We should double the judiciary budget and speed up the disposition of cases. Today, the disposition of cases, average case life is 6 years. No poor, yung ating mga kababayan na mahihirap, walang panggastos yan ng 6 na taon para sa abogado. So kinakailangan pabilisin yung paglilitis. Dapat yan 2 years lang. Tapos na. No? At the most. Then dapat dagdagan ng mga courts. Kulang na kulang pa rin ang ating courts. Kaya mabagal. Kasi nagpatong-patong eh. That's why you need to increase the budget. And then, Fill up the vacancies sa justice system, fill up the vacancies sa prosecution, set targets, and then that's finally, you will have a modern justice system. So, budgetary support, choose the right people, set the right targets, convict more, speed up the disposition of cases, and right now, fill up the vacancies. Because, you know, the vacancies sa ating judges position, more than 25%. So, a fourth of your justice system, kulang ang West. Ganun din sa prosecutor. Almost more than a fourth of our prosecution positions, kulang. Wala. Vacant. Part of that is compensation and benefits.
What's the reason of the vacancy? I've been hearing that.
Compensation and benefits. You earn more pag ikaw ay nagpa-practice sa private sector. So, that's why you have to put your money where your mouth is. Ika nga, for lack of a better term, provide the necessary support for our public prosecutors and our public lawyers so that they will focus on their jobs. And all of them will aspire to become Supreme Court Justice one day because they know the benefits are great and they will not allow their record to be blemished. Kasi pagka blemish ka, di out ka na, hindi ka na pwede ma-promote. So they will value their job because the job values them in terms of benefits and compensation. So modernize our judiciary, put money and modernize our judiciary. And we will address corruption. We will address crime, criminality, everything that we are concerned about in terms of the rule of law rests on a functioning, responsive, modern system of justice.
My second question, Mr. Senator, is how will you ensure that any public official of any rank will be held accountable for their misdeeds? We know that there are a lot of government officials until now, they are not held accountable. How would you help ensure?
Well, sabi nga nila, the past behavior, sabi nila, is the best indicator of future behavior. So, tayo po, we don't tolerate corruption and we've never participated in, we've never been involved in any of these shenanigans, ika nga. So, maikli ang pasensya natin at hindi tayo papayag. And kinakailangan talaga yung mga nagkasala managot. Hindi pa pwedeng hindi.
Thank you once again, Senator Kiko, for joining us. This is the last, but not the least, of the segments of questions. I was tasked to ask you about family matters.
Yes.
Alam kong mahalaga ito sa iyo. What is your position, Senator, on divorce and abortion?
I am not in favor of making a divorce law that will make a mockery of marriage. Ibig sabihin, kinasal today, bukas, pwede na mag-divorce. But there are instances wherein really, because the marriage is more harmful, halimbawa, yung ginugulpin na husto, bakit pa? No, and protective of the individual's welfare, then maybe you should have certain, diba, given certain grounds, allow for the dissolution of marriage. But to make a mockery of our marriage, of marriage as an institution, I am against that type of divorce.
Thank you. How about abortion?
I personally am against abortion, and I feel we should stay where we are now in terms of not allowing or keeping it, how do you call it, prohibited, no? But maybe in cases of health, if it's going to be necessary because the mother has to survive in this regard, then perhaps in that sense. But personally, I'm against abortion.
The next question, Senator, ito, medyo controversial itong issue na ito ngayon. This is about the LGBTQ community and the same-sex marriage. Where do you stand on these issues?
I am against same-sex marriage, but I believe in civil cases, a civil union, yung same-sex union, considering the realities also of property relations, I am open to that. Pero yung same-sex marriage, hindi. I am against that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very direct and clear answer. The last, Senator, is this. What is your plan to help strengthen the family relationships and values such as respect, hard work, honesty, and frugality?
I think education has a lot to do with this. Kinakailangan talaga nating palakasin ang sistema ng edukasyon para itong, meron nga tayong pinasang batas, yung good manners and right conduct. So dapat yan, basic yan. No? I understand sa Japan, sa first few years, yung grade 1, grade 2, puro ethics ang tinuturo, tsaka yung values. So dapat sa education system, of course, sa family mismo, no? Sharon and I, kabid, 25 years na kaming kasal, at 27 years na kaming mag-sweetheart. At I think in the end talagang, pag tinanong sa akin, paano? Of course, God as the center, no, of any family life, any marriage. And then talagang bigyan ng oras, bigyan ng panahon ang pamilya, pangalagahan ang ating mga anak. Sabi nga, no success in the workplace can compensate for failure at home. And sa akin, yung pagkatao ko bilang senador at pagkatao ko bilang ama at asawa, pareho yun, walang pagkakaiba yun. Kaya nga kanina, Bishop, sabi ko, paano ko ipapaliwanag sa mga anak ko? At ituro sa kanila ang tama, ang pagkakaiba ng tama sa mali. Kung ako mismo sa pagiging senador ko, hindi na maliwanag sa akin ang tama at mali. Wala na akong mukhang ipakikita sa aking mga anak. Kung ang mga galaw ko sa Senado ay hindi ko na maipapaliwanag sa kanila. So yun siguro, yung matibay na paninindigan at matibay na pinanghahawakan yung values ng isang tao. That's very important. Love for family, love for the Almighty, love for country. Hindi ito parang salita lang. Dapat ginagawa din ito at pinapamalas.
Maraming salamat po, Senator Kiko.
Salamat din po. Thank you.
You are a lawyer.
Yes.
And you also have had many years of experience as a lawmaker.
Yes.
And I think closest to your heart would be living the part and representing the most vulnerable and marginalized people in our nation. Right now, there is a very, heated contention with regard to all of the vaccine mandates going on, right? And so we just wonder about your position on all of those mandates, ordinances, and if you could kindly square that off with the current law and against the Constitution as well.
Yes. Well, I believe in vaccination. I think it works, but I do not believe in making it mandatory. In other words, our citizens have the right to decide what type of medication they should be receiving. So I do not support mandatory vaccination, and I believe, in fact, the law does not allow for that. There is the law on the vaccination program, which we crafted and we passed, does not allow for mandatory vaccination. And if this is raised before the courts, I think the mandatory aspect can be questioned. Kasi wala yun sa batas ng vaccination program na ipinasa natin nung umpisa ng the beginning of the year. Now, with respect to what I believe should be done is to raise awareness about vaccination. For example, in my case, all in our office voluntarily got vaccinated. All in our household got voluntarily vaccinated. My family too. And let's tell that story. Because in our case, none of us, about 15 got COVID, but none of them got serious. And there were zero serious side effects. So dapat ganun, ipaliwanag, information dissemination, to convince. But no, mandatory vaccination, I think, is not the way to go. Besides, only half of our population has been vaccinated kasi kulang yung bakuna. So para bang, bakit mo pinipilit yung mandatory? Wala naman yung bakuna. Tapos sasabihin mo, aarestuhin mo. Kasalanan ba niya? Wala ngang bakuna eh. So medyo kinakailangan, there has to be a more humane, a more sensitive, a more compassionate approach to the vaccination program.
Thank you very much for your response. Will the other bishops have any added question?
Well, just one last one. If you are given opportunities and all kinds of power, what is the first thing you really like to do once you're in office?
First thing that I have to do is seek guidance from the Almighty. You know, my mother taught me how to pray when I was young. In fact, Bishop, I aspired to be a saint when I was 6 years old. My name is Francis Pancratius. So it could have been Andrew, but I don't know. My mother was a devout Catholic. Still is. So I aspired to be a saint because I read the book of Marcelino Panivino. And I wanted to see the Lord like he did. So I became, nagpakabanal ako. I prayed, I lit the candle, I was very calm and mahinahon. I didn't want to get angry. And I did it for 2 days. I read the Bible. After the second day, I said, ang hirap palang maging banal. Hindi ko, kailangan lagi kang mabait. Mahirap pala. So, hindi ko na kinaya. But, ever since then, I would light a candle, seek guidance in any major decision that I would make. So I guess that's the first thing I would do. And then from there, I think everything else will flow. I have had, between me and Vice President Lenny, our collective work experience in governance, both local and national, ang combination po pag sinama is about 40 years. So we will draw from that to help lead the nation. I'm also saying that kasi kailangan ko rin magpalakas ng loob kasi hindi biro itong hinaharap na problema ng bansa. Milyon ang walang hanap buhay, milyon ang ginugutom, libo-libo na ang namamatay, no? And ang ekonomiya natin naglulupasay. So we will really need all the help we can get and marshal all the strength and all the experience and all the lessons that we have learned to really help lead the country to the right path.